Jay here, Stretford Paddock, and this is a one-on-one interview. And it's a pleasure to have Semra Hunter from La Liga TV rejoin us on the channel. We've been on before. Always great to chat to her about La Liga, what's going on, about the transfer rumours as well with Manchester United, because we know we've got quite a few players that are over in the Liga who we've been linked with. So Semra, first of all, I'm going to get straight into it. How is the atmosphere in Madrid, for example, after that epic Champions League win, which a lot of United fans are pretty buzzing about?
Yeah, I can imagine they would be, obviously, with Real Madrid putting a stop to Liverpool in the end, especially with all the hype going into the game that Liverpool were favourites and nobody wanted to give any sort of consideration to Real Madrid. Well, that's what happens whenever you don't. So you can imagine that the atmosphere in Madrid was absolutely incredible. Yesterday, they spent all afternoon, all evening doing the tour around town, making the usual stops at the town hall, in Cibeles, in the main squares. They were greeted by fans all over the place, turning up in tens of thousands, and they went back to the Santiago Bernabeu to really have a massive festival. There were like 55,000 fans. It was completely sold out in terms of what was available because, as we know, the stadium feels a lot more than that. But it was just a really nice night. And also it was a night of farewells for Marcelo, for Bale, Isco, those players that are going to be leaving the club. But really, it was a very positive, uplifting mood, I think, especially when nobody a year ago thought that Real Madrid would win the Champions League or even La Liga. It was supposed to be a transition year, but hey, you know, if that's what you get, then well done.
I mean, Real Madrid have transition years and they win the Champions League. Manchester United have transition years and we finish 6th. There's a bit of a difference there.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a difference there.
I wish we had transition years like Madrid did. Just one quick question on that before we move on. You mentioned that was it picked up over there, the way that a lot of the press, especially here in England, was sort of saying, "Oh, this is, you know, Liverpool's to win now." Even after the City result, we were seeing people saying, "Oh, that's a great result for Liverpool because they've got a much better chance of beating Madrid." Was that something that was noticed?
Oh, yeah. And I think the players took it personally because they said, you know what, we've won this competition a lot more than you, especially in modern times. You have to remember 9 players won their 5th Champions League trophy against Liverpool. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of experience there, and experience goes a long way. And we're talking about the club that has won this competition more than anybody else. And so even though they haven't had the best team in terms of the football they've been playing throughout the season, it hasn't been great. It's been okay. It's been good. But they've done what they've needed to do. And what's been their main strength is knowing how to manage games. And that's ultimately what won them the final against Liverpool. And also what saw them out all of those historic comebacks. But the players were upset. You know, they went into this thinking, why are we the underdogs? You know, okay, discount us at your own peril. We'll show you what we can do. We've done it 3 times already against 3 of the favourites going into this competition, against PSG, Chelsea and Manchester City. So if that's what you guys want to think, then go right ahead, bring it on. But we're going to win this game. And that's the thing. There's an expression that the club really like to use and Madridistas really like to use, which is we don't play in finals, we win them. And they prove that that's true in their case.
It certainly is. You can't argue with their record. I mean, it's ridiculously good. I think it's something like 17 European finals or something on the spin that they've won.
17 European finals. They've won 14. They lost 3. The last time they lost was in Paris against Liverpool in 1981.
I mean,
and they've won 8 in a row since then.
That's just unbelievable. I mean, you know, you can't argue with that saying that we don't play in finals, we win them. When you've got a record like that, I'm extremely jealous of Real Madrid fans. I really am. Moving on to Manchester United, the big sort of transfer story doing the rounds this week and last week and even a bit before has been about Frenkie De Jong, obviously at Barcelona. There's talk, the latest story I saw was that Manchester United are willing to make him our highest paid player to try and tempt him from the new camp to come over here to Old Trafford. Do you think this move could happen? Because it seems like there could be a willingness from Barca to sell him, but it's whether the player would go.
That really is the question, because Barcelona need the money. They really need the money, and they need to bring down their wage bills. They need to get players off the books. It's the only way that they're actually going to be able to make any kind of transfer business of their own this summer. And Xavi said openly he wants Frenkie to stay. He feels that Frenkie is the future of the midfield. Frenkie himself has alluded publicly that he wants to stay. It doesn't seem as though he really wants to go. He wants to play Champions League football next season. And it is a question of whether he can be tempted to say, okay, maybe for one season, you won't get to play Champions League football, but think about the future. Think about the longer term, the project that we're trying to rebuild here with Manchester United. And obviously those links with Ten Hag, having worked together at Ajax, that incredible season, 2018-19, where they went all the way to the semi-finals, and he was one of the pivotal men in the squad to take Ajax that far. And he really burst onto the scene. So there is a manager there who knows how to get the best out of him. He knows him really well. That's not to say that Xavi can't do that either, though. And so the feeling, at least in Barcelona, and it hasn't been confirmed as of yet, but the feeling is that Frenkie doesn't want to go. And so the club may say, listen, we're really sorry, but we kind of need you to, because we financially need to make this deal happen. And obviously Manchester United seem apparently to be very willing to make this deal happen. But the other question is, does it really make sense from a football point of view? And I don't mean that because Frenkie isn't worth the 60, 70 million, whatever it is that's being reported that Manchester United would like to spend for him. But if you look at the priority of what the squad really needs at Manchester United, the areas that really need reinforcing, from what I gather, you can correct me on this, but it seems like top priorities would be a right back, a defensive midfielder, and a striker. And Frenkie De Jong doesn't really fit the bill in any of those positions, obviously. So he would be a great addition. There's no question about that. He would add a lot of quality to the midfield, and he is someone for the future. But I don't know if that's really what they should be focusing their attentions on. So I don't know if this is going to happen or not. It may drag out over the summer. It could well be the case that this turns into a saga, especially if he doesn't want to go. But we'll see. It could be interesting. But like I say, I'm not sure that it's the move that really needs to happen for Manchester United right now.
No, I couldn't agree more with what you said there. I think for me personally, from obviously watching United, is a defensive midfielder is essential. We've not had one for a little while now, and we've suffered because of it. But the other positions you mentioned, we need a striker. We do. We've got 37-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo as our really only out-and-out striker. We also, as you mentioned, we need a right back. It feels like we need a massive overhaul, but those positions you mentioned, especially DM for me, should be the priority. I just want to ask you one more thing on De Jong. It seems a little bit odd to me that this is a player that, from what I gather, and you can correct me, that he's had a good season, he's playing well, but they're willing to let go. Is that just because of priorities?
I think it's a financial thing more than anything else. I really don't think it has anything to do with his football, the way he's playing, his skills. The thing is, he has had a pretty decent season. He's never really fully kind of fit in the mold of what was expected of him, but also because he hasn't been utilized in a way that gets the best out of him, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think a proper preseason with Xavi, not just with him, but with the whole team, and really learning and understanding what it is that Xavi wants from them and how he wants them to play, that would do a massive favor to everybody. And I think it would help get him to play some of his best football again. And so I think it's really just the board looking at the numbers and saying, you know what, we just need to cut costs. We need to do whatever we can. And for whatever reason, even the Spanish media for months now have been constantly pushing Frenkie De Jong out the door, him more than anybody else. So maybe it has to do with the salary that he's earning. Maybe they feel that he's somebody that they can make a lot of money off of in terms of what he's worth in the market. But I think it would strictly be a financial deal, not for any other reason would they sell him.
One of the stories that popped up earlier, and I just wanted to get your take on this quickly, was the fact that Erik Ten Hag may have to sell one or two players to increase his transfer budget. One player that was suggested was Anthony Martial. Now, we know he went over to Sevilla, and from what we gather, that move the low move didn't really work out. Just didn't work out for him there, really.
I think you're putting it nicely. It crashed and burned. Right, okay. I mean, it could not have gone worse. It was really disappointing. And I think there was so much hype about him coming here because we've seen glimpses of the talent that he has in the past. And so I think there was high hopes that he'd be able to kind of re-kickstart or reignite his career a little bit. And that working with Lopetegui, going to Sevilla, at the time they were pushing for the title, it seemed like it could be a good fit because they also needed reinforcements in that position, and it was likely that he was going to play from the offset. The thing is that Lopetegui couldn't really figure out how to use him. Sometimes he put him wide, sometimes he put him up top as a 9, sometimes he'd have him as a 10. So he was trying him out in different systems and in different positions, but it just never clicked. It never really clicked. And I don't know if that's because of the language barrier or if there was a cultural thing, or maybe he was feeling a little bit down after having been pushed out of Manchester United, that it didn't work there. I mean, there could have been a whole psychological impact behind the scenes as well. Maybe his mental state just wasn't where it should have been or could have been for him to really be successful. But Sevilla were not happy, and they made it very clear that they're not interested in having him stay in the squad. And it's quite sad, if I'm honest with you. It would have been nice to see him actually enjoy a bit of success while he was over here.
No, it's quite sad because this was a player a few seasons ago, scored, I think, 23 goals for Manchester United in a season. He's very exciting, as you mentioned, when he is on form. He can be a hugely effective player. But, yeah, I mean, you see Crash and Burn, and I think that from what I've seen, and certainly from his numbers, I didn't see a lot of him, but it just didn't work out at all. Moving on to targets that United are chasing again. One name that keeps popping up, and this has been popping up since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was manager, is Pau Torres. It seems that United are being heavily linked with him again. There was stories last week that Erik ten Hag has sort of told Manchester United to try and get Torres at all costs. Do you think that's a move that could happen? Do you think it's one that would benefit Manchester United if it did?
I will start with the second answer that you gave, or a question that you just asked me, which is, do I think he would benefit? Yes, he's one of the best at his age. I think he's only 24 years old. He's very young. And he's still developing and growing, but he has been tremendous. And so good, in fact, that he's earned himself a starting position with the Spanish national team. I think it was last year. The first question, will it happen? Funny that you asked. Timing couldn't have been any better, because only a few hours ago, he spoke to the media here in Spain, and he said that he wants to stay at Villarreal, that the only offer that he has on the table right now is with Villarreal, that he hasn't heard anything from Manchester United, and that he feels as though he has a lot more years to go with Villarreal. So he really downplayed the rumours.
That's not what. That's
read into that what you want.
That's not what I want to hear. I want to hear you telling me he's coming. He's definitely going to sign. Don't worry about it, because we could do with him. It's just what we need. But no, if he's saying he's going to stay, I mean, I know this can happen. Players can sometimes say that.
Things can change.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the thing. There's still a long way to go in the transfer window. If Manchester United do decide to make a formal approach, maybe he can be pried, he can be tempted, depending on the conditions. I mean, we don't know. But as of today, he publicly said that his plan is to stay at Villarreal. But you know how these things go. Things can change on a dime in football.
They can. There might be another transfer saga. We love a good transfer saga at Old Trafford. We do. That goes on for weeks and months and months. So you never know. It took us 2 years to get Jadon Sancho.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that one went on forever. Another target that we've been linked with is Danjuma, a player you know, of course. Again, do you think there could be something happening here?
It's an interesting one. I don't know. He seems really, really happy at Villarreal, and he's absolutely loved working with Unai Emery. And Unai Emery has been the best thing, I think, to happen for him. I mean, he did an interview a few months ago, and he was just waxing lyrical about the manager and the relationship that they had and how he's taken his game to a whole new level. He's been a revelation player this season. There's no question about it. He has been one of the surprise packages, I think, considering where he was a year ago, was in the championship with Bournemouth, I think it was. Yeah. He really was having a hard time, I think, trying to get into the team. It wasn't really going super well as he would have liked. But obviously, Unai Emery saw something in him and thought that he could get the best out of him. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for spotting that, because he was the one that said to Villarreal, bring me Danjuma, I want him. And he's turned him into the Flying Dutchman. He's been exceptional this season. And I think what's interesting is the way that he's utilized him. And this would be interesting to see how it could then translate into Manchester United and how they play next season and what systems they want to use and so on. Because he's predominantly been playing as a hybrid role. He's not an out-and-out striker. He's not an out-and-out winger, which is what he was previously, but he's very much a mix of the two. So for the most part, Villarreal have played with a 4-4-2, although sometimes a 4-3-3. But typically, they have really, really good quality midfielders who are good on the ball. And they have these fullbacks that love to get forward as well. So basically, what they do is tell Danjuma, just kind of stay up top. Don't worry about defensive duties. We'll get the ball to you. But apart from that, he's very good at creating things on his own. he's got a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of what he can do. He's good passing, he's good dribbling, he can carry the ball forward, he's very direct, he's good on one twos with teammates. He can drift into the central area if you've got those overlapping fullbacks that can make those crosses. And if they don't, if they hang back, then he can go to the wider areas and operate more as a winger. So he's been very versatile this season, which has made it very difficult for defenders to track him, to know what to do, and to anticipate what his movements can be. And he's had a lot of success in front of goal. I think it's 16 times that he scored across the board in all competitions, 4 assists. And he has been the most dangerous player for Villarreal this season. And again, I think the systems that were used really played to Danjuma's strengths. So if Ten Hag can do something similar, assuming, in a hypothetical case that Danjuma ends up going back to the Premier League, then he could be a serious asset for Manchester United. There's no question about it, based on what we've seen this season. But again, I think it will all depend on what system it's going to be, how the playing style is going to be, and how he can then fit in to that role.
Yeah, he's, like you mentioned there, he certainly kicked on. I mean, he was okay at Bournemouth. He had one good season there, but I don't think many of us.
I think he had maybe 1 month in December where he won Player of the Month.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, it felt like he had a purple patch where he kept scoring and assisting. Yeah. But I don't think any of us predicted he'd quite reach the player that he's become under, as you mentioned there, under Unai Emery. He's just absolutely flying, as you said, the Flying Dutchman. Just one final question, Semra, about Raphael Varane, because he came to Manchester United, and myself, I was so excited about Raphael Varane arriving, a serial winner, one of the best centre-backs on the planet. It's just not really worked out for him. He has been hampered so much by injuries. He's been in and out of the team. And I think there's a few fans who are looking at it going, have we seen the best of Varane? Is this his limit, or is there more to come from him? What do you make of his time so far at United? And what would you say to United fans who are still wondering whether Raphael Varane, is as good as everyone thought he is?
I was really excited for you when he left. I was disappointed, I really wanted to say, because he's been an exceptional defender for Real Madrid for a very, very long time. And he's just class and elegance and just a lovely person. He just kind of flies under the radar, doesn't really create a lot of controversy, keeps himself very quiet, but he's so professional and he's a very, very good footballer. And I think that he doesn't get a lot of the credit maybe that he also deserves, because a lot of the time Sergio Ramos was the one that was getting all of the headlines. But the thing is, when they played together, they were a perfect partnership, because he covered for Ramos a lot and he covered a lot of his mistakes. So he made Sergio Ramos look a lot better at times than perhaps he actually was. So for me, they were very different in the way that they approached the game, and they complemented each other exceptionally well. I think he's had a hard time trying to figure out a partnership with Harry Maguire. Also, I think because Harry Maguire on an individual level has had a very, very poor season. Mentally, he doesn't seem to be in the right place. But it's just a reflection, I think, of everything else going on in the dressing room. I don't think it's fair to necessarily target him specifically, because there's such a wider range of issues going on there, that I think part of the problem as well is that from a systemic point of view, things have been kind of all over the shop with Manchester United, haven't they? Structurally, there's no organization. It's been very chaotic. It's a lot of the times been kind of each man for himself, everybody kind of just trying to sort things out whenever they can, and without a lot of times any kind of help, really. So I wonder if that also has any kind of implication in the way that Varane was playing, apart from the fact that he has had such recurring injury issues that have kept him out for 15 games he missed out in the Premier League this season. So I think almost in some ways the structure needs to be regained at the back and the whole way through. And I think Ten Hag will do something like that. And I think that could really help each individual component in a sort of organized setup such as that. So is there more to come? I absolutely think so. I really do. I mean, he's a world-class defender. He's won everything. You mentioned that he's a serial winner. He's got an ultra-competitive mentality, and he knows how to play in high-pressure situations and some of the biggest games, in the world whenever it comes to club football and with the French national team. The question will be if he can keep his fitness levels up. So the preseason is going to be really important for him in terms of trying to get him on track for next season. And I think the good news is that Ten Hag takes a lot of pride in getting everybody extremely physically fit. So I think that will be very beneficial to him. I would definitely say you can still be excited. You can chalk it off to a really bad year all around for everybody. And hopefully brighter days are coming for everybody, both within the squad and outside of the squad as well, too.
I hope so, Semra. No, because I agree with everything you said there. From what I've seen of Rafael Varane, I remember when he first arrived at Manchester United and I was watching him and I thought, you use the word class. You can see he's got that class on the ball and he's so composed as well. And he's
composed is a great way to describe him.
Yeah, and I think it has been a shame with the injuries and, as you mentioned, the whole sort of drama that's been going on at Manchester United, the changing managers, the changing his centre-back partners. It's just not been a great season all round, as you've mentioned, but hopefully brighter days ahead. Semra, it's always a pleasure chatting to you, and can people see you on La Liga TV and Sky Sports as well? I see you popping up on there as well, giving your take on La Liga, so I look forward to seeing more of you on there, and thanks again for coming on Stretford Paddock and chatting to us.
Thanks so much for having me. A pleasure. Hope to see you soon.
So that was La Liga expert Semra Hunter giving us her take on the Frenkie De Jong rumours, on Pau Torres, on Danjuma, on even Rafael Varane and what he's all about as well. So make sure you're checking her out. Make sure as well you are subscribing to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. We want to get to 700,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Big thanks to Semra Hunter again. Thanks for watching.